Last week, the government members of a special parliamentary committee wrapped up work without members of the opposition. But the main opposition, APNU, wants that committee reconvene or there would be no support for legislation meant to dictate regulations to prevent money laundering and other financial crimes. What's more, APNU says the government should stop bluffing the population that the money from their overseas relatives and friends could be blocked from coming into the country if the amendments do not go through. A special committee was set up to fine-tune amendments to various pieces of legislation to get Guyana up to scratch with global benchmarks to prevent money laundering and other financial crimes. The government has accused the opposition of dilly-dallying, but the opposition is accusing the government of being wrong and strong. The government members of the committee are getting ready to report to the House when the National Assembly is reconvened and get the legislation passed, but without a clear majority, it needs opposition support. APNU, the largest opposition parliamentary bloc, says it will not support anything. The amendments are too massive to be dealt with on the floor when the National Assembly meets, and so it is impossible to conclude the work that way. The opposition leader, David Granger, says any talks should happen in the same committee that the government wrapped up work in.
We support anti-money laundering legislation, and what will change our mind is returning the matter to the committee and getting the committee to work assiduously to implement the amendments which we have been working on. So we want a good bill, and we are prepared to do that, but the chair of the committee, Ms. Gail Teixeira, discontinued the work of the committee.
Granger said if the government was in such a rush anyhow, then the National Assembly could have met ever since it came out of recess on October 10th.
Yesterday marked 3 weeks since the end of the recess, and Parliament has not yet been reconvened. And people are talking about a hurry. 21 days have passed without reconvening Parliament. The government is taking its own sweet time.
APNU parliamentarian Joseph Harman said that his party's members were unavailable on the day the government decided to wrap up talks, and for reasons the government knew well. Even if the government gets the support of the 7-seat AFC and the legislation is passed, he said that what the regulatory body, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, would be interested in is enforcement of regulations and not mere passage of legislation. Harman said that the government should stop trying to scare citizens about the implications of the non-passage of the legislation.
There's a lot of scare tactics going on right now to fool people, to tell them that, look, the money that you're receiving from your remittances is going to stop. The barrel is going to stop. Well, let me say this. The enhanced provisions of the Financial Action Task Force has already been in place for a long time. People who receive monies know that they now have to, if they go to Western Union, they have to provide certain information. You got to, in addition to your ID card, you have to give a test question and all these different things. These are all features that were put in place. And so for the government to say, well, look, all these people are going to suffer. I want to say to all of the people in the Riverton market, the Rosal market, the Port Morant market, New Amsterdam, Georgetown, Linden, Anna Regina, all of these hard-working people who invest their own money to do business, that you are not going to be affected in this way unless your business has to do with drug laundering money. This has to do with drug laundering money, illegal monies. And if you are doing legitimate business, you should not be afraid because you will have to do some additional paperwork. You should not be afraid.
The AFC has said it would support the passage of the legislation against financial crimes if the government agrees to appoint a public procurement commission and have no input whatsoever in the work of that commission. For Capital News, Neil Marks.